All right, so this week we have been talking about order of operations with our integers, and this is not a concept that is new. We have been dealing with order of operations for the last couple of years, and you usually kind of stick in these operations: multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So this year we have included the groupings, or what you see here in PEMDAS, the acronym PEMDAS, the P, which stands for parentheses. But remember, we have now switched this from a P to a G, all right, to have a better representation of what that P actually stands for. So we know that it deals with groupings. So groupings can be those parentheses that we used to see, brackets, which would be the next level of grouping, braces, and we've also looked about things or expressions inside of absolute value bars. Okay, so all of these are considered groupings. And next year you'll learn another form of grouping with numerators and denominators. But this year we are just sticking with these types of groupings. So we know that if we ever see numbers with operations and they're inside of parentheses, brackets, braces, or absolute value bars, we know we need to take care of that first because that's a main level first thing that we do with order of operations. All right, and then we also kind of looked at the way that I line these up to help my visual learners see it a little better. Is I kind of treat them like they are a video game, and we talk about them in terms of levels. Okay, so I'm going to have level 1, this addition and subtraction. So I'm going to come down here. So we have groupings, exponents, multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction. So multiplication and division, remember we go from left to right, whichever we see first when we're reading from left to right. If they're on that same level of multiplication and division, we would do whichever one comes first. Same thing with addition and subtraction from left to right. And I say, okay, let's treat it like it's a video game, and you've got to complete level 1 and level 2, and as you keep going up, you're getting into the more difficult levels, okay? So when we are solving order of operations and we are just simplifying these expressions, trying to get it down to just one nice, single, pretty little number, then we are going to start with our hardest task first. And then we're going to go to the next hardest and all the way down to the simplest tasks, which would be addition and subtraction. Okay, so we're starting with these harder things first, all those groupings, and then working our way down to the easiest levels. Okay, so let's look at these examples that we have here. And we're going to start off fairly simply with just two operations, subtraction and division. So when you're doing these on your own, you're going to have to go from left to right. Always read from left to right with these. And we're going to see, what do we do first? Do we do subtraction first or division according to our order of operations? And we know that we're going to do the hardest thing first. So division is harder than subtraction. So we are going to solve this one first. So drop down what you are not working with, or you could do the problem first that you do and then drop the other things down, either way. But we have 12 divided by 3, which we know is 4. All right, so now we do 17 minus 4, and we get 13 with nothing left to do. So that's our basic. And then we look at this second one, and we actually have a grouping now. So groupings happen first, very first. So we need to do our grouping. 3 plus 6 is 9. And I'm going to drop everything down that I have not done yet. All right, so you see that I left the parentheses there. And the parentheses are no longer grouping anything together, but we are still using them for which operation? Can you tell? So yes, if you said multiplication, that is correct. We use parentheses sometimes for multiplication, and that is saying that that 5 outside of the parentheses is being multiplied to the 9 inside of the parentheses. And since there's nothing else to do inside the parentheses, we know that it's multiplication and not a grouping. All right, so now we have multiplication and addition. So according to our order of operations, we're going to do multiplication before we do addition. Plus multiplication is a higher level, harder concept. So we're going to do that first. And we get 45. And then we drop down our plus 4. And now all we have left to do is that addition of 45 plus 4. And we get 49. All right, so now we have 2 more examples, and I rewrote my order of operations GEMDAS vertically because that sometimes can help people see the different levels a little bit more clearly, and I left my grouping reminders up there. All right, so for this next example, we see that we have some parentheses inside of a grouping. So we have a grouping inside of a grouping here, and then we have addition happening and multiplication. Remember, the dot means multiplication here. Okay, so what we would do is go order of operations. Do we have any groupings? Yes, we have 2 different groupings. So remember, when you have a grouping inside of a grouping, you need to go to the innermost grouping. Go to the inside or the smallest level grouping there, which would be this in here. So we're going to start with this and then work our way out to this grouping, okay? And then we'll deal with the lower levels. So we have 6 times 1, which we get is 6. And I'm going to drop my 3 minus in there. And I'm going to go ahead and just drop down everything else I have not used yet. So we got rid of the parentheses by solving 6 times 1. So now we still have a grouping, so we can't move from this level. We got to keep solving our groupings. So now you see we have 3 minus 6. We have $3 and we want to purchase something for $6. We are going to have a negative number here. Or warm party, you have a positive and a negative. We have a war. The negatives are going to win by 3. And then I'm going to drop everything else down. Now my brackets here, my grouping, have been satisfied. So we just drop everything else in. 2 plus, we solved that, got rid of the brackets, times 4. All right, so our groupings are done. Do we have any exponents? We do not, so we move on down to the next one, multiplication and division, which we do have multiplication here. So we need to look at our multiplication problem, which is this right here, -3 times 4. So we remember our rules for multiplying integers, and we have negative times a positive, which means that we're going to have negative, and then 3 times 4 is 12. Drop down our plus and our 2, and we have 2 signs side by side without a number in between. So we need to either look at that as subtraction altogether, or we can say that we have a war here very clearly going on. We have a positive and we're joining in a negative. The negatives are going to win. We have a war and they're going to win by 10. And then we have nothing left to solve, so -10 is our answer. Okay, so now let's take a look at this last example. And you'll see that we have absolute value bars, so that is a grouping. And you see parentheses. Oh, but these parentheses don't have anything inside of it that are being grouped. It's only a single 3 here. Oh, so that means this parentheses is not a grouping. This parentheses is multiplication. But we do have one grouping, so we are going to start with solving this grouping. All right, now inside of the grouping, we have 2 operations, division, and then we just saw that this is multiplication. Division and multiplication are on the same level. So we're going to need to go from left to right. So as I read this problem, 25 divided by 5 would be our first thing that we do, because we read from left to right, and since they're on the same level of difficulty, we just go from left to right. So 25 divided by 5 is 5 times 3. And then we need to still do the absolute value of that once we solve. And then minus 20. Bring it down. Okay, so we now need to do our multiplication. 5 times 3 is 15. And we need to still do the absolute value of that because the absolute value is also an operation that we need to do. Minus 20. All right, so now we've completed all of those inside of the grouping, and it's time to go ahead and solve the absolute value of 15. So remember the definition of absolute value. It's not the opposite. It's how far this number inside the bars is away from 0 on a number line. So at positive 15, it is 15 units away from 0 on a number line. So 15 is our answer. Remember, absolute value is always positive. It can never be negative because it's a distance, and you can't go a negative distance. So then we're going to drop down our minus 20, and we have one final operation to do, and that's subtraction. 15 minus 20. Again, we have $15, but we want to spend 20. So we're going to owe somebody money. We're going to be in debt or in our negatives. Or if you're doing war and party, you have a positive and a negative. So they're going to go to war. The negatives are going to win. They have a larger army. And they're going to win by 5. So the answer to this whole expression is negative 5. All right, I hope those reminders are helpful, and if you get stuck while you're practicing, make sure you go back over your notes and take a look at this video again. Remember to take it step by step. And writing this acronym, GEMDAS, on the top of your paper, either vertically like I did or horizontally like I did earlier, is very, very helpful to keep checking back and make sure that you're following the proper order of operations.